You spent 20-25 years building real expertise. You know how companies work and how they break. You fixed things others couldn't even name properly. And right now, you're in your 57th status update meeting of the month. That's not a career, that's a hostage situation with benefits package. Here's what I want to talk about: why the corporate executive model is functionally broken, why that's actually good news for you, and exactly what to do to turn your expertise into a fractional practice that pays you more and without the theater. This gets very specific, very fast. I'm Yuri Neveroff, and this is the Fractional CxO Blueprint. Let me give you some actual data, not LinkedIn version. Challenger, Gray, and Christmas tracked 1.1 million announced job cuts through November 2025 alone, the highest since 2020. Since 2023, employers have explicitly blamed AI for more than 70,000 of those cuts. But AI is just accelerant. The structural driver is something else. Organizations realize they built too many layers of management for the world that no longer needs them. Middle managers made up 1/3 of all layoffs in 2023. In 2025, 41% of employees globally reported their companies had already trimmed management layers. That's Korn Ferry's Workforce 2025 survey, 15,000 professionals worldwide. Gartner projects that by the end of 2026, 1 in 5 companies will use AI to eliminate at least 50% of their remaining management positions. Google cut 35% of small team managers. Intel eliminates 50% of its management positions. Amazon cut 14,000 corporate roles. Middle management, not warehouse. Microsoft, flatter structure, fewer managers, publicly stated. Here's the number that closes this section. Planned hiring is down 35% from the same point last year and the lowest since 2010. Glassdoor reports employee mentions of layoffs and job insecurity are now higher than they were in March 2020, the first month of the pandemic. Hundreds of thousands of senior executives are losing their positions, and they won't find a comparable corporate role soon. The market that produced those roles is now contracting by design. This isn't a cycle, it's a structural shift. The traditional executive career, join a company, climb, wait for the next title, is dead. The question is what you do before it happens to you, or if it already has. Let me describe a typical corporate executive week. I know very well what I'm about to say because I've been there for too many years. And I suspect you recognize every single item in this list. Harvard Business Review documented that senior executives spend an average of 23 hours per week in meetings. 71% of these same senior managers call these meetings unproductive and inefficient. 63% have no agenda. 73% of attendees are doing other work during the call. But that's just meetings. Here is the full list of what fills a corporate executive's week. Status updates for decisions already made. Performance reviews of people they don't directly influence. Budget defense exercises that protect headcount, not results. Compliance reports that inform no one's decisions. Internal decks for audiences who will never act on them. OKR rituals that measure activity, not impact. Managing upward, managing sideways, managing perception. Onboarding initiatives that will be cancelled in 4 months. Now, here's the number I want you to sit with. The average corporate executive spends roughly 20% of their time on work that has any real business impact. Of that 20%, 19 go toward things that look like real business, but in practice maintain the status quo. Reporting, stabilizing, defending existing structures. That leaves 1%. And that 1% isn't evenly distributed. It's not that every executive spends 1% of their time on genuine development and innovation. The reality is uglier. It's one person on the team doing 10% of their time on things that actually move the needle, while the other 19 spend their time holding that person back through processes, politics, and committee. If you recognize yourself either as one doing the work or honestly as one of the 19, drop your experience in the comments. I'm genuinely curious which camp you're in. And I suspect a few people watching this already know exactly which person on their team is the one. So, you have two forces converging. One, hundreds of thousands of experienced executives being pushed out of the corporate structure with nowhere obvious to go. 2. A growing segment of companies, specifically 10 million to 100 million revenue businesses, that need world-class executive decisions, proven playbooks, and best-in-class operational frameworks, but can't justify or frankly don't need a full-time C-suite of 20 senior people. The math resolves to one model. Fractional. The market data is unambiguous. The global fractional executive market was valued as 9.4 billion in 2025, verified as of March 2026 by Data Imcalos Research, and is projected to reach 24.7 billion by 2034. North America alone is 4.1 billion last year. At the current growth trajectory, the market crosses 15 billion next year or year after next. Now the opposite side. LinkedIn profiles listing fractional roles went from 2,000 in 2022 to 110,000 by early 2024. That's the last hard published number. Given the growth trajectory since, the realistic 2026 figure is likely 2 to 3 times that. Demand for fractional CMOs, CFOs, and CTOs grew 68% in a single year. 72% of CEOs plan to increase their use of fractional executives in the next 12 months. And the demand isn't just coming from the mid-market companies. Large enterprises have discovered fractional for their own reasons, and it's a different set of reasoning worth naming. A $500 million company doesn't hire a second CFO because they can't afford one. They obviously can. They hire a fractional CFO instead from a different industry to get a genuine second opinion on strategic decisions, one that isn't filtered through internal politics. They hire a fractional CMO who's built category leadership in the market that they're trying to enter. They hire a fractional CHRO to run a specific transformation that their permanent team is too embedded to lead objectively. They hire fractional talent as high-end execution muscle for a critical initiative that needs senior hands without adding permanent headcount. In large companies, fractional is pressure on the full-time executive to perform. It's external expertise that internal teams can't fake. It's a way to access capability from a different region, different sector, a different growth stage without a 2-year hiring process and a compensation package that requires board approval. The 10 to 100 million companies need fractional because they can't afford the full-time version. The 100 to 1 billion companies want fractional because the full-time version doesn't give them what they actually need. Demand is growing faster than the supply of qualified practitioners. Because here's what's also true. Most of the 110,000 LinkedIn profiles that now say fractional are not running fractional practices. They're running job searches with better vocabulary. Fractional, written before a title, doesn't create clients. What creates clients is precise positioning, who you are, what problem you solve, and why you specifically. An offer that addresses a specific company situation with a specific outcome. Visibility in front of the right decision makers, not everyone. Differentiation that makes you the obvious choice, not a candidate. Proof, documented results, case studies, specific metrics, a system for converting interest into contracts, and a process for delivering results that create renewals. Without these elements, fractional is just a polite way of saying unemployed. The market has room for excellent fractional practitioners. It has no room for consultants who haven't learned how to sell themselves at their work. That distinction is what this entire video is about. And now let's talk why the fractional model is a rational financial decision for the company. Look at the numbers. A full-time CFO in the mid-market company costs 350 to 500 grand in total compensation per year. Add recruiting fees, 25 to 50% of first-year salary, onboarding time of 6 to 9 months before real output begins, equity, paid leave, and the organizational overhead of every senior headcount, and the real first-year cost is between 600 grand and 1.2 million US dollars. A fractional CFO costs 8 to 18,000 per month. It's 96 to 216 grand per year. For 60 to 80% fewer dollars, that's Graphite Financial and Soleil's data 2025. But the cost savings are actually the least interesting part of the analysis. What does a full-time executive spend their time on that a fractional doesn't? The company is paying for, not necessarily It wants to, but it's getting internal politics, budget protection, relationship maintenance, onboarding time, the performance review cycle for direct reports, and the statistical risk of a bad hire. Spencer Stewart data shows 34% of first-time CMOs don't complete their initial contract. Most companies hire 2-3 CMOs over a 7-year period. Every replacement cycle multiplies cost and disruption. A fractional executive arrives with pattern recognition from multiple companies and a mandate tied to outcomes. They start delivering in weeks, not months, and they know their contract depends on results, not presence. The outcome numbers speak for themselves. 84% of companies renew their fractional contracts. Average fractional CMO engagement lasts 71% more than the analog on the full-time. That's 5.9 years, longer than the 42 months average full-time CMO tenure. 74% of companies report lower risk with fractional than with full-time executive hires. The company gets 100% of expertise, 0% of overhead, and a default exit that requires no severance, no lawyers, and no 12 months garden leave negotiation. For any company between 10 million and 100 million in revenue, this math changes everything. And now the math for you. Right now you're trading your full expertise, Monday to Friday, 50 weeks a year, for one salary. One company gets everything you know, and you're compensated for being present, not for delivering results. Here's what fractional model looks like, built properly. Most fractional executives charge 5,000 to 10,000 per month per client. Elites go up to 25,000. Most serve 2-3 clients simultaneously. That means even for the beginning, fractional is 10 to 30,000 per month, 120 to 360 grand annually from retainers alone, not talking about project fees and bonuses. Unlike a salary, legitimate business expenses are tax deductible. Home office, tools, travel, professional development, health premiums, car, etc. The effective tax treatment on fractional income structured correctly through a business entity is materially more favorable than W-2 at the same gross level. Then add performance bonuses. In a corporate job, your bonus is loosely correlated with company performance and heavily snapped by internal politics. In a fractional engagement, you negotiate KPI-linked bonuses from the start. The scope is specific. The results are measurable. The upside is real. A CFO who saved the company 1.2 million through renegotiated contracts and better cash management has a documented case for a meaningful bonus. Not a conversation filtered through 3 levels of management. A direct business case. One condition, this model only works if both parties want actual business performance. If you want results and the company wants someone to attend their meetings and look senior, that's a bad fit. Identify it early, walk away early. The fractional structure gives you that option. A full-time employee doesn't have it. Everything above is context. This is the part that determines whether you actually build a practice. Step 1, self-analysis. Where can you actually win? Before a proposal, before a LinkedIn update, before you tell anyone, do this work. Define your best client with surgical precision. Industry. Where have you created documented results? Not where you've worked, where you won. Company, size, and stage. Growth stage, 5 to 30 million needs different things that a private equity-backed 18 million turnaround. Culture type. Founder-led, PE-backed, family-owned. Each has a different buying process and tolerance for external authority. Then define their pain. What result do they want that they currently can't achieve without you? When is the pain sharpest? Fundraising, revenue plateau, team breakdown, compliance deadline. What rational argument moves them? Cost, risk, growth speed, competitive pressure. What emotional argument? Fear of failure, fear of being outplaced, desire to prove something to someone. What are their doubts about a fractional? Name them before they do. Use AI aggressively here. Feed it your story, your results, your industries. Have it build your ideal client profile. Have it generate the 10 most likely objections from a skeptical CFO of a PE-backed company. Have it pressure test your positioning. The precision of this step determines the quality of every step that follows. Step 2. Build an offer that eliminates hesitation. Companies don't buy hours, they buy outcomes. A week offer. Fractional CFO services, 10 to 15 hours per month, $9,000 retainer. A strong offer. 90-day financial clarity program, 13-week cash flow model, board-ready KPI dashboard, and a strategic decision framework. So your investors stop asking the questions you can't answer today. For each client segment, build a different offer addressing their specific situation. The offer for a company going into fundraise looks nothing like the offer for a company trying to reduce burn rate. Address hesitations before they are raised, the most predictable ones. Will you understand our business fast enough? Specify the onboarding process and timeline. What if it doesn't work? 30-day rolling terms, no lock-in. Are you available when we actually need you? Response time SLA built into the agreement. And use the 3-2-1 framework to make your delivery concrete. 3 days of diagnostic, structured conversations, data review, highest leverage problem, identification. 2 weeks to produce a concrete action plan, not a strategy document, an operational plan with owners and deadlines. 1 quarter of peak strategic impact, the decisions and changes that will affect the company for years, not the next reporting cycle. And then quarterly implementation cycles with KPIs and renewal logic built in from day 1. Step 3. Build a funnel that works without you. Fractional executives who struggle find clients one at a time, by accident, through relationship they already had. The ones who build practices build a system that generates interest continuously. The highest ROI channels in order. LinkedIn content, not credentials, not inspirational quotes, analytical, specific, slightly contrarian takes on the problems your ideal client has right now. 1 post per week that shows how you think, how you diagnose problems, what you've done, what results you produced. There is a material difference and the audience noticed it. Doesn't matter where your lead came from. They will check your LinkedIn page, and it better be meaningful. Strategic referrals, not random networking. Map the 20 people most likely to refer your ideal client. Past employers, colleagues, investors, board members, advisors. Nurture these 20 people specifically, not the whole LinkedIn network. 20 people. Fractional platforms, K-Talent, Business Talent Group, function-specific networks. It's lower margin, but useful for building early case studies and credibility before your inbound is actually working. Targeted direct outreach. Your ideal client is findable. If it's a Series A SaaS company between 10 million and 30 million annual recurring revenue, there are 60 of them on Crunchbase right now. Personalized outreach that leads with their situation, not your resume, converts. And you do understand without me that you can reach out to the CEOs trying to hire C-suite executives. Build the system so that by the time someone has a real conversation with you, they already know how you think. And you will have to spend time on that. Really. Normally, I suggest 50% for delivery, 10% for administration, and 40% for building your pipeline and selling to the new clients. Step 4. Convert with consultative selling. Most senior executives are uncomfortable with sales because they've only seen it done badly, either aggressively or desperately. Consultative selling is different. It's diagnosis, not persuasion. Your job in a first conversation is to understand the problem well enough to know whether your solution fits. If it doesn't, you say no. You say no. That posture combined with genuine expertise is what converts. You can use any framework. We have one of the most advanced ones in my course. Only one problem here, you can't learn it without a qualified instructor. Soft skills simply are not developed by the books and videos, only assisted practice. So understand the current state, surface the specific pain, explore what it costs them if it stays unsolved, and then present what changed when it's fixed. Then close with your framework. They know exactly what they're buying, when they get it, and what changed. The ambiguity that kills deals disappears. Step 5. Develop and renew relationship. Winning the first contract is a transaction. Building a practice is about what happens after. The executives who renew at 84% do three things consistently. They make impact visible, track baseline metrics before you start, track changes weekly, present a monthly impact report, not a status update. Status says what you did, impact says what changed in the business because of it. They expand naturally. Once a company trusts you on one problem, next problems becomes conversations, not pitches. I noticed your team is losing 2 weeks per quarter to this process. Want me to look at it? That's how a 3-month contract becomes 3 years with extra project fees. They maintain relationship at the CEO, board, and shareholders level. Regular check-ins aren't status updates. They are intelligence gathering. What changed last month? What's on their mind that isn't on your current scope? Is the problem you are solving still the right problem? Step 6. Deliver like an executive, not a consultant. This is the one that determines renewal. Consultants deliver reports. Fractional executives own outcomes. You show up as a member of the leadership team, not a vendor. You initiate, conduct, and attend the meetings that matter. You have the access to the data you need. You make decisions, not recommendations. You raise problems and you own the solution. What the companies need to feel continuously. This person is accountable for this. Every week, your key stakeholder has clarity on what you are working on, what the status is, and what the next decision point is. No surprises, no ambiguity, no "I'll have a report by Friday." This is not a consultative posture. It's an executive posture. The distinction is real and the client feels it. Step 7. Scale from practice to company. Most fractional executives stop at 2 to 5 clients. That's a practice. It's good, but it has a ceiling. Your time. The next level is building a firm. When you are proving your methodology across multiple clients, when you have documented playbooks, repeatable delivery frameworks, and a clear brand in your space, you can start hiring. Not only more fractional executives who compete with you, also practitioners who execute under your methodology and your brand. This is how you move from working with 3 companies to working with 10, 20, or 500. And here's where it becomes genuinely interesting for your clients. A traditional CFO practice can add bookkeeping, financial reporting, and FP&A, financial planning and analysis execution, delivered by a team under your oversight. A fractional CMO practice can add content production, social media management, and performance media execution. A fractional CRO practice can add outreach engineers, SDRs, and sales enablement delivery. Your clients stop buying just fractional expertise from you and start buying the entire functional output of a department at a fraction of what building that department in-house would cost, with better results. You go from trading your time for retainers to building a business that operates whether you're in a client meeting or not. We do this on a special scaling track of my program, and that makes the model complete. One more thing I want to talk to you about. This model is not for everyone. If you've spent your career optimizing for safety, managing up, staying aligned, not making enemies, fractional will not work. Clients renew based on results. Results require the willingness to say what's actually true. Push through internal resistance and be accountable when things go wrong. If your identity is a title and an organization chart, fractional will feel like a step down. It isn't, financially or intellectually, but it will feel that way until you reframe what senior actually means. If you don't have documented specific results, real numbers, real changes, real wins, you lose to the people who do. But if you are a CFO, COO, CMO, CCO, CHRO, Senior Director, VP or SVP, or even a CEO with 15 plus years of genuine impact behind you, a real point of view on your function and the appetite to work on actual problems without the politics that come with them, the math is in your favor. The market is growing towards 25 billion. The demand exceeds the supply of qualified practitioners, and companies that have figured out the fractional model are not going back. The only missing piece is the system to convert your expertise into the money from the clients. I've built that system, the complete model, into the Fractional CxO Blueprint. This isn't a course you take. It's a transformation you go through with me. You start with a clear target, build a positioned offer, build a conversion system, learn to sell the way senior executives actually sell, and build the delivery and renewal infrastructure that makes this a practice, not a freelance experiment. The right place to start is my Fractional Calculator, a tool that shows you with your own numbers that your fractional practice looks like financially at current market rates. Do it even if you are well employed in a role before you are asked away. Run your numbers, see what's possible. The link is in the description and in the bio. I'm Yuri Neveroff, and I help high-performing CXOs and senior directors transition from corporate roles where they feel constrained and uncertain about their future to building a stable, multi-client fractional executive practice. This enables them to retain their status and influence, gain control over their time, and exit their roles on their own terms without financial uncertainty. Don't forget to subscribe and start there.